Alright everybody, welcome back and welcome to what I think is the undisputed best jet in War Thunder, the Rafale. I've had several people ask me to cover this ever since the patch went live, so I figure now is a great time to do so because I've been wanting to do anyways, and I mean, hey, who knows, maybe something will change with the next update. For now at least it's pretty clear though, the French at top tier, with of course the Rafale at 14.0 have a 63.4% win rate. That is the highest win rate, with the Brits and the Eurofighter coming in second. The US is in last place. Now, for those of y'all who watched my original Eurofighter back when it first came out, you might remember that at the time, I personally preferred the Eurofighter over the Rafale. I thought it was a little bit more meta. Several things have changed since then, and the Rafale has a ton going for it right now. Now, the biggest change, since I made my last Rafale video, has been flight model-wise. The Rafale has received, basically continuous flight model buffs. The two biggest ones were, one, a increased turn rate change that it got before this past update dropped, and that brought the turn rate of the Rafale close to the Eurofighter. One of my original complaints with the Rafale was that I felt like it just bled a little bit too much speed while it was turning, and that pretty much took care of all of that. Then Gaijin also went ahead and nerfed the Eurofighter in the past update. Doesn't turn as well as higher speeds now, which makes it more difficult to dodge missiles, and it also brought the Rafale even closer. Then Gaijin went and also buffed the thrust on the Rafale, and so this thing is just absolutely ridiculous now. Based on what I've heard, it's either on par or better than the Eurofighter in a 1v1 now, while also having that much better high-speed pull. That's really crucial in RRB right now, because if somebody launches on you at the last second, you need to be able to get into that notch, or you're going to eat an active radar homing missile and just die. Being able to whip around really quickly with your HMD, lock somebody and fire off a missile is also very important, and the Rafale does both of those incredibly well. Another useful thing you can actually see me using in the background periodically is that they actually increased super cruise speed as well. Now, this will be more useful for my sim enthusiasts, but essentially what it means is that even without Afterburner, you can actually cruise above the speed of sound. So you can get around much quicker, and especially if you're trying to, maybe run a little bit lower on fuel like I like to do, that can be incredibly useful. In fact, even without Afterburner, I often find myself getting dangerously close to overspeeding and having to back off. And that is the one downside flight performance-wise for this jet. The rip speed. It is very low for a top tier jet, much lower than even the Mirage 2000, which comes before it. There's been several times that I have died from ripping my wings from overspeeding. So if you do happen to get this jet, make sure to keep an eye on your speed. Even if you're in like a 20 or 25 degree climb with your afterburners on, there is still a very good chance that you will manage to overspeed it. The Rafale is just suffering from success. And by the way, if someone can get that changed, it doesn't really need it, but I'd like to have maybe, 1,600 kilometer an hour speed. Thank you very much. But this is a perfect example in the background. I'm having to throttle way back because I am dangerously close to ripping right there, around 1,400 kilometers an hour. Barely able to catch up to this F-15E, which of course I easily win the dogfight with. But in theory, he could just run away from me because I don't have any missiles. The Rafale does have an excellent gun, switching over more to the weapons now. It doesn't have any tracers, unfortunately, but it does have a high velocity and fire rate, and it does plenty of damage, at least from my incredibly limited experience using it, because, let's be honest, you're rarely getting into gun range these days. And that's where your missile kit comes in, because you have some of the best radar missiles in the game. The Mika, while it may not have, the absolute best range, someone like an AAM-4 or an AMRAAM or a PL-12 is going to do better in that regard. It does have the best close-range performance out of any of these radar missiles in the games, and that is very important if, say, for example, you're sucking a notch and you're trying to shoot at somebody who is getting closer to you. This allows you to shoot at those very high off-bore side angles and immediately snap back into your notch. Now, me personally, I don't think that's that big of a deal because it doesn't happen that often, but it is nice to have that ability if you do actually need it. The Mika is actually more capable now in BVR than it used to be, and it's not because the Mika itself has changed, it's simply because the Rafale is so much faster now than it used to be after these engine changes that you're seeing I'm going Mach 1.6 now. That gives the Mika a lot of velocity just starting off with, even before you launch it. So I have actually started getting more BVR kills, at least compared to what I used to get. And that does actually lead me to something else, when it comes to the radar missiles. The Mika did actually have a change to its seeker head, where they reduced the field of view. I've heard a lot of people saying that it should make it, not see chaff as much, but both from what I've been told and what I've experienced, there doesn't really seem to be a difference. I've had them get chaffed or not get chaffed just about as much as any normal missile, and I actually went ahead and asked Jake to test with me. By the way, if you've never seen his channel, highly recommend checking it out. But yeah, I didn't really have any issues chaffing it, at least not more than usual. Same for him. Everything felt basically the same. I think that people who are feeling a change, it might just be placebo. The only other thing that I would say air-to-air wise is that the Rafale does actually also get access to 2 Magic 2s as well. So me personally, I'm normally one to always bring at least a couple IR missiles, just for people that are sitting too low for my radar missiles to connect with, or people that are notching. But specifically in the Rafale, I think it's one of those situations where you're better off just bringing the Mika, partially because the Mika is already such an excellent dogfight missile, and partially because, well, you got to get very close to use gate with IRCCM missiles effectively. And most of the time, by the time they get to that range, the enemy is going to be dead. In contrast, something like an AIM-9M, you can fire at somebody 5 kilometers beneath you, and there's a very good chance it's going to connect unless they flare properly, because it doesn't really care about the range. There are 2 other major advantages of the Rafale, and that is the Rafale has the best radar in the game. It has an AESA radar, of course, and it's going to pick up basically everything and constantly update on it. It can also track targets while they're outside the normal scan pattern. The Rafale also has the best MAWS coverage in the game. Both the Eurofighter and the Rafale have 360-degree RWR, but for some reason, even though the Eurofighter is also supposed to have it, the Rafale is the only one that has 360-degree MAWS coverage. Though I still wound up dying to an IR missile there. Now you might be wondering why you're seeing a Mirage 2000 right here, and well, that's because this is part of the reason why the Rafale is also so incredibly good at CAS. In case you didn't know, strike aircraft and fighters have different spawn pools in War Thunder. And so when you spawn your Rafale, for example, at the beginning of the match, to do some CAS, if you bring another fighter, say for example, the F-16AM, the cost is going to be doubled. Meanwhile, the Mirage 2000 DRMV, which gets only 1 less hammer than the Rafale does, so 5 of these hammers, does not have any difference in the spawn point cost. Same thing if you want to bring the Mirage 2000 first, which is what I usually prefer to do. You can spawn the Rafale later for no additional cost. And these hammers are excellent air-to-ground missiles. They're the second best in the game if you ask me, right after the KH-38MT. These have an imaging infrared seeker just like the Maverick Ds, just like the KH-38MTs, but they're both less likely to be shot down than Mavericks, and they also have a much better warhead, because these are 250 kilogram bombs that are being rocket propelled into tanks. As you can see, when you're launching them, they actually don't just go straight for the target like a MAV would do. They go over the target, then turn straight down to go for it. Basically, they loft over the target and then do an almost 90-degree dive on it. This is especially useful whenever you're trying to shoot at anti-aircraft, because they won't see the missile coming in and try and shoot it down. Or they will see it, and they'll assume it's going for somebody else and not them. And by the way, you still have 6 Mikas on top of these to take care of any aircraft in the sky. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll catch y'all next time. So, peace, y'all.